This evening, Temple Emanu-El is honored to welcome back the former Consul General of Israel in New York, Ambassador Asaf Zamir, to share his reflections on this moment. Born in Israel, Ambassador Zamir grew up in Florida. He served the IDF as part of the Central Control Unit in the Israeli Air Force. Then he attended Tel Aviv University, where he earned a law degree. In 2008, Ambassador Zamir was elected deputy mayor of Tel Aviv and was re-elected in 2013, assuming all responsibility for the city's education system. Then in 2019, Ambassador Zamir entered national politics as part of the Blue and White Party. In 2020, with the formation of the National Unity Government, he was appointed Minister of Tourism. Later that year, though, he resigned, calling for new elections, and played a key role in the effort that eventually led to the formation of the most diverse government in Israeli history. It was then that he was appointed ambassador and Israel's consul general in New York. However, he courageously resigned from that position last spring in protest over the next government's judicial overhaul effort. But he has not resigned from his role as a spokesperson for Israel. His recent video posts are important educational tools to fight Hamas propaganda. I encourage you to look at them. Nor has he resigned from political leadership, as he seeks again to join forces with Tel Aviv's incumbent mayor Ron Holdai. Israel's municipal elections will take place January 30th. Please welcome back to Temple Emanu-El, Ambassador Asaf Zamir.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom from Israel. I heard the long bio. It's a reminder of the fact that every 2 years I have to resign from something. It's not the funnest reminder. But when I left and went back to Israel, it was summer, and the country was divided, and there were protests in the street, and there was a general feeling in Israel that we have reached the end of the ability to communicate with each other, to agree on anything, and to maybe even govern together and live together. It was a very, very dark feeling. I do not know if you can relate to that in America, but that's what we were feeling in Israel, and just a general sense of despair. And then October 7th arrived. And at least for the time being, it all went away in a second. Because it was a historical reminder of the fact, sadly, that we've always had, and I guess always will have, bigger problems, greater enemies, ones that don't want to change the way we live. They really want to kill us. They really, really want to kill us. And it's become a moment, it was the most traumatizing moment, I think, in the history of the State of Israel, and for sure since I was born. But in Israel, it's become a moment of clarity. And in a way, I think in the United States, it's become a moment of clarity as well. Because just as Israel was divided and united around this issue, understanding we have to stop everything and make sure we can live in Israel freely in security, the Jewish community that I met while being Consul General in New York, which was also a very divided Jewish community, has come together in many large parts supporting Israel. You can be critical of a politician and understand that Hamas would do October 7th no matter who the politician would have been. There was huge discourse in Israel. Every time a big political decision was made. It's a vibrant democracy. I'm sure all of you have been and you know it. It's open, there's free press and transparency, and as Jews, we agree about nothing. So every time a decision needs to be made, it's a big fight. And I remember the fight or the public discourse around the disengagement from Gaza in 2006. A lot of people in Israel, I was among them, thought we have to leave areas which are future Palestinian territories to be the Palestinian state next to Israel, because otherwise they'll never be able to have a country. And there were people that argued that the minute we leave, nothing good will come out of it, and Israeli security will be compromised. And that was 17 years ago. And in those 17 years, even though many political activists in the world still regard Israel's policies toward Gaza as an occupation, all we've been doing is protecting that border, making sure it's secure. We let off guard one time for 8 hours, and that resulted in 1,200 murdered. Not regular murdered, one bomb, everyone's dead in a second. Extremely brutally horrific images murdered, documented, and posted. It's a different kind of murder when you photograph that murder and publish it to make sure everyone sees how cruel you are. When you do that 1,200 times, when you do it to babies, when you involve sexual assault in it, you do the most inhumane of things, it's impossible to bounce back from and say, you know what, it's been 50 days. Let's go back to before. It's not another one of those. It's a pivotal moment in the history of Israel, and it became, sadly, a pivotal moment in discourse around anti-Semitism all over the world. Because when I was here as Consul General, we used to say, or try to say, anti-Zionism is a modern-day form of anti-Semitism. Theoretically, you can like Jews and think they shouldn't live in Israel. Practically, usually, it derives from the same place, and it's a cover-up for the same thing. And it's not the same thing to say, I don't think what you're doing regarding policy with the Palestinians in the last 10 years, that's not the same thing as saying, I think there shouldn't be a Jewish state. I think you've never been there. I think you're European colonizers. And I don't think you'd get the right to defend yourselves and define yourself. And a lot of people, in New York as well, because of politics, because of social reasons, didn't really have the time or energy to get into that. Because life is bigger and there are other issues. And in that aspect, I think this has also been a moment of clarity. Because there's a certain point till which you can say to people, you're right. Israel is not okay about this and not okay about that, and maybe I would do differently. Between that and between things that have been happening around the world since October 7th that prove that most people that don't like Israeli policy actually don't like Israel, actually don't like the Jews in Israel, and actually don't like you guys either. Unless you're dead. People are very sympathetic towards us if we've just died. But if you live, they're very angry. And if you're strong, they're very angry. And if you're successful, they're very angry. And it used to be something they'd say in the dark, and now it's in broad daylight. It's been normalized, and you're allowed to say that. And if you're young enough, it's even cool to say that. And it's very, very strong, it's very, very hard to stop that trend. And the feelings are mutual in Israel, and the feelings are mutual here amongst the Jewish community. That's why some of the most critical Jews in politics against Israel haven't been critical towards Israel since October 7th. Because even they understand this is a moment where we need to unite, fight our real enemies, and do everything we can to win. We can try and explain to everyone that we're more moral. If they're not willing to understand or to listen, at a certain point, and this is pretty new in Israel, the general energy or feeling is we don't feel, we'll do whatever we need to do even if you're not convinced. Because we have no other choice. I went and visited in the northern border 2 weeks ago, Chanita and Shlomi. It's a kibbutz in a little city. No one lives there. There are just a few soldiers. It looks like a scene from Platoon. And every 5 minutes, you hear a bomb from Lebanon blowing up in the sky. I have family in Eilat, the love child of Las Vegas and Miami in southern Israel. It is now targeted with Yemen bombs or Yemen rockets. They are backed by Iran, and Lebanon are backed by Iran, and Gaza are backed by Iran. And they have friends in China, and friends in Russia, and friends in Turkey. And we are the little boy with the finger in the wall of the true dreams of this group, which is to annihilate everything that is free. And the more people understand that, the easier that'll be for us, because we'll get more and more support. But I've seen the support from the Jewish community in the last 50 days since the war started. And I came to New York to participate in a few events and to do a few interviews and to try to use my time to do something good for us. But I asked Rabbi Davidson to come here today, not to talk about what's happening in Israel, but to say thank you. Because I know that it's not easy being on the defense all the time. And I know that it takes a lot of explaining to do, and I know that sometimes it's not comfortable. And I know that people pay prices. And I know that you could have made the opposite decision and you didn't. And it was important for me to come here in the name of my Israeli friends and to say thank you. That in this specific moment in time, which I'm sure we will pass, we didn't just unite with ourselves in Israel, we united with the Jewish diaspora as well. Whether they are democratic, Republican, critical, supportive, secular, religious, reform, conservative, or Orthodox. We'll have enough time to fight in the future, I promise you, if you're worried. But we really do have to pass this first. And not everyone remembers October 7th. And the further this war goes, the longer it takes, people will remember that less and less. And because we're strong and we have a good army, it will tend to look one-sided sometimes. But I want to remind you the fundamentals. That we are fighting a terrorist organization that's using its citizens as human shields. We are the only army in the world that calls before we come. We say, we're coming tomorrow at 2, can you leave? We're coming tomorrow at 3, can you leave? Would it be comfortable for you if we do this from here? Would it be comfortable with you if you do this from there? We talk to the world before, we inform everybody before. We have one hand behind our back, and if we win, that means we used excessive force. In any other country in the world, if this would have happened, it would be a 2-day war with huge bombs and it would be over. Any other place in the last few years that suffered sexual violence, like the sexual violence that happened in Israel, There was a UN resolution 5 minutes later. Boko Haram, Ukraine, everywhere, Taliban. The only place where women were raped and the UN, instead of declaring this was a sexual assault, said we need to check what happened, is Israel. The only women that are allowed to be raped in the world without that being automatically condemned are Jews. A lot of things we thought we can hide behind, we can't anymore. A lot of things we thought we can brush under the carpet, we can't anymore. It's bad, but it's also good, because all the crazies surface, and you can point them out, and people need to make a choice if they believe that or not, and if they support you or not. And sometimes it's hard, but that's where we're at. So at least make the best out of it. You're a strong community. You're the prettiest shul in the world. I really appreciate the time you took to listen to me. I'm going to go back to Israel soon and join my friends. I urge you all to come visit when you feel it's safer. And I want to say to everyone, Shabbat Shalom, Am Yisrael Chai, and we love you.